Thank you very much, Jay, for the nice introduction. It was a long introduction. It's big. I'm never going to hire you as my publicist. I don't know for sure. Can't believe it. You don't want that job? They're high-paying jobs. Okay, you got the job. Okay, got it. Anyway, thanks very much for being here, Mayor. I want to thank you also for having us, and then I want to thank all of the people, if it's the chamber or people or the elected officials, and I want to thank all of you for being here today and being interested in our state budget. And I, of course, have been going up and down the state, talking about the state budget, because I think the people of California and our local officials are all our partners. Sacramento, there's a lot of politicians in Sacramento that always think that's where the action is, but I think the action is all over the state of California. And so this is why I travel to all the little towns, the big cities, and talk about the problems that we have. And of course, it's nothing new. I think that on a local level, you face the same challenges with the lack of revenues and the economy slowing down and the subprime mortgage crisis, the housing markets, and all of those kind of things. The only thing is that this is really not the problem. We know always that the economy goes up and then it comes down. And then it goes up and then it comes down. The question is just how do we prepare for those kind of moments? It's like an intersection when you see that there is traffic accidents, people are dying, eventually you put a traffic light up there so that you eliminate this problem. But the state of California has really never done anything about those kind of situations. If there's an economic upturn and our revenues are surging, the legislators grab all that money and spend it. And never put any money aside for when the economy goes down and our revenues go down or level off. So now, right now, we have a situation where the economy is slowing down and our revenues are leveling off, but we have no money to supplement now those revenues because the Sacramento has spent all of that money. Now, that's why we have to make cuts. So when you read that in my January budget proposal, I proposed 10% cuts across the board, it means that, our revenues are flat, but our spending formulas require us to spend more money, 8% more money. But we only have growth of 1% in revenues. So this is why we have to make cuts. So we're not cutting below of what we're spending right now, but of what we're supposed to spend next year, next fiscal year. So what we want to do is we want to not only fix the budget problem this year and next fiscal year, but we want to actually fix the system, the budget system itself, so that we start putting a rainy day fund aside for the bad years, for the down years. There's, of course, a big challenge. I've tried that already twice. When I first came into office, the state of California was almost bankrupt in 2003. Even though in 1999, 2000, we had a huge surge of revenues of 23%, but again, then the legislators also decided to spend all of that money. There was nothing left. So as soon as the downturn came, by 2003, the state of California was almost bankrupt. So we then, when I came into office, we then asked the people of California to pass $15 billion of recovery bond money so we can bail our way out and pay our way out of this mess. And it was very successful. The economy gained momentum again. We reformed workers' compensation and did all kinds of things to bring businesses back to California. And then we had a surge in revenues again of 13% in 2005. Again, Sacramento grabbed all of that money, spent it all, so that now we have no money, no rainy day fund put aside for the downturn. So this is why we need to fix it. So I asked the legislators to first of all make mid-year cuts, which they did. On the Proposition 58, they have 45 days when I declare fiscal emergency to go and make those cuts. And they came in 1 week early, so they did a great job. Democrats and Republicans alike worked together, did a great job. Now the second challenge is to fix the budget problem for the next fiscal year, where I recommend a 10% cut across the board. Now they may come in with a different answer and they say, look, we can't make 10% cuts. We maybe make 12% cuts here, but only 8% cuts there. I don't run the Capitol by myself, so this is a partnership where we all will work together. There's also some that recommend revenues, and I tell them, get creative, try to figure out where revenues come from. I'm not against revenues, but I am against raising taxes. because we can't go to the people every single time when we have this problem and say, let's raise taxes, because eventually you end up with 100% taxes. So this is not the right way to go. And the mistakes were made in Sacramento, not by the people of California, so why go out and punish the people of California and raise their taxes? So they will figure it out in Sacramento. Democrats and Republicans, they will work together, figure out a way on how to do that. But the third and most important thing is to go and fix the system itself. To come up with a system where we go and make a commitment and say, okay, our average increase in revenues over the years is, when you start 10 years ago to now, is approximately 5.4%. So why don't we limit ourselves to 5.4% growth and spending increase every year? And when we have a 10% surge of revenues, or 12%, or 15, or 20%, let's take that extra money and put it in a rainy day fund. So that is what we want to do. This is what other states do. This is what cities do. They all have a rainy day fund put aside. And that's, I think, what the state of California should do. It's very challenging. Like I said, I've tried it twice. In 2003, when I came into office, I asked the legislators to go and put a cap on spending and put a rainy day fund aside. It was immediately voted down by the Senate. They had absolutely no interest in Sacramento to go and put that kind of a limit on, because they love to spend. They're spendaholics in Sacramento, and especially someone else's money, because they're not used to signing the checks in front, only in the back. They've never signed a check in the front. So that is the problem that we have, and this is why it was voted down. Then I said to myself, well, the people have sent me to Sacramento. So if the legislators don't want to go along with it, then I'm going to go directly to the people through the special election in 2005. Well, over $100 million was spent against my ideas, and they were taken out, and the people voted against it, so we didn't get that done. So now we're back the third time. I think this year is a good chance that we get it done, because, when you have an emergency like this, then people, act much quicker. And we've seen that, I've tried for years to get our levees fixed in California. No one paid attention. But then when Katrina happened, and then people realized, yes, we have levees, and they're very vulnerable, let's go and fix it. And they committed to $4.1 billion in infrastructure bonds to fix it. So I think we've seen it over and over in California. When you need to make decisions, I think they get their act together and they make the decisions. So I think Democrats and Republicans will get together this year. They will see that this is a major crisis and that we are sending our children on a roller coaster ride every single time there's a downturn. We suspend Proposition 98. We don't have the money to fund education or other programs, prisons and law enforcement, healthcare and all of those things. We have to make all those cuts, and so we send them on this roller coaster ride. And the next year, we have again the funding, and we give them all the money in the world. And the next year, we take the money away again because the economy goes down. So I think it's unfair. And so this is what we want to do and here's a chart that I want to show you. As you can see that when you look at the green line, these are our revenues. So you can see that's totally unrelated to the spending. The spending continues on, even though the revenues are not there, we have to continue spending. And this is why we get into such unbelievable deficits. So when I took over office right here, we had a deficit of $16.5 billion. Then finally the economy came back, the two lines came together. Now again the economy is leveling off, but the spending formulas continue. And this difference here is approximately $12 billion. Now you can see, here is a chart I brought that if we would have had reforms 10 years ago, the two lines will come together. Not perfectly, but they will come together much more evenly, and they're together. Here you see what will happen if we don't reform the system. Let me turn this a little bit. You can see they're going further and further apart, these two lines. That's approximately $10 billion difference every year. So you cannot tax your way out of this problem here, I can tell you. We have to fix the system. If we reform the system, immediately those two lines come together here. The spending line and the revenue line will come together and get in line. And we will put a rainy day fund aside, and we will be protected so we have money so that we can supplement if there's a decrease in revenues. So this is basically what we want to accomplish. And like I said, it's a very challenging thing. It is a big undertaking, always whenever you try to do big things, but I have always, a big vision. When they talk in Sacramento about infrastructure bonds of $5 billion and $10 billion, then I talk about $100 billion. And then finally you settle in, and we had the people approve $42 billion of infrastructure bonds, plus the $8 billion for our prison expansion and adding 53,000 new beds for our prisons, which is another $8 billion. And right now we're negotiating water infrastructure to secure our water for the next few decades, to have safe and reliable water and all those kind of things. So there's all kinds of great things happening. But I think that the best and the most important thing is if you have a great foundation, which is to have a system in place, a budget system in place, where everyone can rely on a certain kind of funding every year. So we don't have to suspend Proposition 98, so we don't have to take money away from prisons and from law enforcement and all those kind of things. So this is what our goal is, and this is why I'm traveling up and down the state to talk to the people and have them be able to ask questions. So I open it up now so that you can ask questions about any of this. Yes, please. We have a microphone here. This gentleman here is really fast with the mic. That's his specialty.
See that.
He graduated 4-year college in mics.
He's very fast.
Handing out mics.
Well, thank you, Governor, and
Sure.
for making the trip today. I'm with the Board of Supervisors here, and I am worried about the transportation bonds that you referred to. So in your budget, in your projections, your analysis, the transportation bonds that we have 1,200 miles of road here in Humboldt County that the county itself is responsible for, not to mention the city of Eureka's roads and Fortuna and the other folks that are here. Are the transportation bonds, do you think they're going to be secure so that we're going to be able to go out and compete with projects?
Well, not only will they be secure, as you know that I'm a fanatic when it comes to infrastructure, because for 4 decades, this state has not really built infrastructure. If it has to do with water, if it has to do with schools, expanding our universities, fixing our levees, or transportation, it has not been done. They've spent all this money on other things, but not on infrastructure. And so when I came in, I said that we're going to go and start rebuilding California. And this is why we got together and we approved, the legislators approved the $37 billion of infrastructure, which was $20 billion for transportation. And we made sure that we sprinkled that money all over the state because every area needed transportation and expansions very badly. So we actually would do the opposite, which is not to take any money away, but to push out the transportation money as quickly as possible. Why? Because right now there's so many people unemployed in the housing market, in construction business and so on. So what we can do as a state is, since we have the approved, by the people approved, $29 billion still left, let's push this money out as quickly as possible, put people to work, and get our roads built at the same time. So this is what we're doing. So both of the parties are working together right now to get that money out as quickly as possible. So it's secure. Don't worry about that. And the other thing I want to mention is, in the old days, when I came into office, government has stolen money from local governments. That's why we passed Proposition 1A, so they can't ever steal any more money from local governments. And they also stole continuously when they ran out of money from transportation. As a matter of fact, transportation projects came to a grinding halt during 2002, 2003, 2004. So when I came in, we started paying back from our revenues to transportation so we can get going again. And then we passed, of course, the infrastructure bonds. So they cannot steal anymore from transportation. They can't steal anymore from local government. They can't steal anymore from pensions, which they also try to do. And we can't borrow money for ongoing programs anymore under Proposition 58. So the noose is tightened. So this year they have to deal with reality. Sacramento has to deal with reality. Whatever that reality is, there are some people that believe, like I said, in all cuts. Some people think this has to be a combination of cuts and some extra revenues. We have, of course, great potentials of, the lottery money. There's billions of dollars available there that we can license the lottery out to people that are really experienced and make billions of dollars more every year than what we are making right now. So there's others that are looking at closing some tax loopholes that may be outdated and all this. I tell people everything should be on the table. Come in with your ideas, let us negotiate, and let us come up with a great compromise that will work for everybody. Yes, please.
Well, first, I'd just like to acknowledge my appreciation for the attention that you have given Humboldt County, because I can say, I think on behalf of everybody here, we have never seen a governor that has been so attentive to the needs of Humboldt County. And your theme of infrastructure is also very important. You recently signed the emergency declaration for Martins Ferry Bridge, which is a public works improvement project. We are working on that. And we really appreciate your support of Mendocino Redwood Company. And I think that's very important for the long-term infrastructure. That is our natural resource infrastructure. In addition to your directive to your staff to be working with the Klamath Settlement Agreement, of which I'm on that team, and your staff has been phenomenal on that team. My question would have to do with the gas tax and what it represents for Humboldt County. It's about $300,000 a month in revenue, and I think we've projected that we could get till about September before it would begin to have a negative impact if the state was to continue holding that. We use that money in order to match the grants that would be acquired under 1B, as well as our abilities to maintain our own infrastructure and our staffing. So from a local government perspective, I would ask that we can go a certain period of time with that, loss, but in the long term, it could be very detrimental if it goes past September. So I would just ask that you and your staff keep that in mind. Thank you.
I hope you heard that.
Yes, sir. and those funds will start becoming available in September. That is the time when they're going to start coming again. No money to be taken. It's only a deferral.
It's only a deferral, and if he is changing his mind, I will terminate you. Okay. Yes, please.
Well, Governor, thank you again for coming to Humboldt County. I manage Green Diamond Resource Company's timberlands here in Humboldt County, and we're the largest landowner in the state, in Humboldt. And our cost of permitting is 10 times what it costs to do the same work in Oregon. And now we hear from the Ledge Analyst's office that we could be asked to pay for fees that would pay for the state's review of those permits that we acquire. That will double our cost and make it 20 times the cost of producing timber in this state compared to Oregon. We have some ideas about streamlining. Is there a way to get those ideas into you and see if we can use that as a way rather than fees to solve the problem?
First of all, absolutely. We love working with the locals because, believe me, there is no one that believes more that the action is on the local level. The answers are on the local level. Grassroots operation, all of these things is very important. Sacramento is not where the action is. We coordinate, but if anyone in Sacramento thinks that they have the ideas on how to solve things like that, they're wrong. On the local level is where all the answers are. And believe me, I am kind of like the person that has been protecting businesses so you don't get overcharged with fees and all of those kind of things. Of course, they are so creative in Sacramento on how to increase fees left and right in order to get more revenues. And I think the Legislative Analyst's Office, Liz Hill, has made those recommendations, but it doesn't mean that we're going to go and say, oh, this is a great idea, let's charge them more money and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I'm the one that is killing all the job-killing bills. As you know, we have a list of job-killing bills. This would be one of them because as soon as you have to pay more, you have less money for salaries and for wages and for hiring people and all of this. So we know, I have run businesses before, so I know how it works, that we can't go and keep beating up on businesses and asking them for more and more money because then you cannot afford to hire people, and we want you to hire a lot of people. That's what it's all about. So we will work together with you on that. Okay, I will get your card afterwards so we can work together, sure. Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming, Governor. I think you're on the right track with your idea about averaging the revenues. Clearly, if given the opportunity, revenues will be spent, and I like your idea. I think it's a good one. I'm glad you're taking it to the people up here and around the state. I think that's a good a way to accomplish what you're trying to do. My particular comment regards our local assets here. We have a bay and we have a rail. And we'd like to get your support for completing the rail and getting this port, again, activated, that it might serve the state. We have a local entrepreneur, I think you know him, Rob Arkley, who says we could make this port the first green port in the state, maybe along the West Coast. So I'd like to get your response to that.
Well, I'm a big believer in rail, and as a matter of fact, I like the idea that we will have a high-speed rail that will be on the ballot, hopefully this November. And I think that we have to go and look in that direction because I think that we have less and less airports, runways. I mean, there's more demand for airplanes, but we don't have enough runways. So I think that people more and more will go in the direction of, again, railroad. Because if we can provide services that are on time, and if we increase the amount of services that are available right now, I think this is where the future is. That's where the future is in Europe. That's where the future is in Japan, in China, and all over the world. We see that's the direction everyone is going. And I think we should do the same thing here in California. So I am all for railroad and for forming partnerships, and not only having it doing the public, but public-private partnerships. There's ways of going where we can put our minds together, our finances together, and build much more than we have right now. Sure. Yes, please.
I possibly have the $64 question, Governor Schwarzenegger. I represent the district on the Board of Supervisors that the Pacific Lumber Company mostly resides in. There's been a multitude of compliments and condemnations and talk in this community, and especially in my part of Humboldt County, about the outcome of the bankruptcy. I attended a meeting in the Resources Building a few weeks ago to formulate a recommendation to you so you, in turn, could formulate a recommendation to the bankruptcy court. There's a lot of mystery here, and I'm wondering if you have a clearer picture of what the outcome of that bankruptcy is going to be. I know your recommendation was with the Mendocino Redwood Company. I think that probably is one of the more popular proposals here. But we don't know. I was just wondering if you have a clear vision of what might be the outcome.
I tell you that I think we all would like to know, but that's up to the courts, to make those decisions. And we just make recommendations that we think what is good for the state. And what is important to us is not to at all interrupt the economy here and to not have a negative impact in the economy. We want to make sure that we protect the jobs. We want to make sure that it's everything done environmentally sound, which is very important, again, economic growth and protecting the environment at the same time. So I think that this is why we recommended that company. And so we just hope, that the courts will make the right decision. But, that's not in our hands. But we were very forceful in making the recommendations and what is important to the state of California.
Thank you. I think we're all hoping for the best.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, Governor. My name is Joe Mark. I'm the CEO of St. Joseph Hospital here in Eureka and Redwood Memorial in Fortuna. And we find ourselves in a very catch-22 situation, I guess is the best way to describe it. Our St. Joseph Health System committed to a $128 million replacement hospital here in Eureka. Took $72 million of debt off our books up here and spread it to the hospitals in Orange County because they do better. Because the mission up here in terms of taking care of such a large indigent population and such a large Medi-Cal population was so important in terms of overall ministry and purpose for the sisters. With the proposed 10% cut in Medi-Cal, our two hospitals will lose $1,950,000. We certainly didn't anticipate in our pro formas increases in Medi-Cal payments, and they're woefully inadequate when you compare them to Medicare and Blue Cross and other insurance company type payments. So we're looking at some real serious implications that if we have to take that close to $2 million hit, how it's going to affect the construction project here in Eureka going forward, possible service elimination here in Humboldt County that would force more people to have to go to the Bay Area for some of the higher level services that we have here. And would just ask that your staff look at, rather than the 10% across the board, we understand the need to balance the budget, but this also has job implications here. And we're the largest private employer. We got great paying jobs up here. We think we run a real efficient shop, and anything you can do to avert that 10% Medi-Cal cut would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me tell you that you're absolutely correct that what implications it has if it is with hospitals and Medi-Cal cuts. or in education, the cuts, or with law enforcement, the cuts, and them not being able to move forward with the agenda of going after gangs and reducing the gang violence and all of those kind of things. Or if it is with prisons, that we have to let out certain prisoners. All of this stuff is terrible. And this is the point I'm making. We can stop that from happening. Because as you can see here, our revenues always keep going up by 5.4%. There's no reason we ever have to make a cut. The reason why we have to make a cut is because when we have 23% increases, they spend it all, and then when we have a decrease in revenues, we don't have the money to supplement it. Normally, under normal circumstances, you will put some of that money aside so we can supplement. We should never cut Medi-Cal. As a matter of fact, as you know, we were very close in reforming our whole system that we have, everyone insured. And that we increase, as a matter of fact, by $4 billion Medi-Cal. That is what our reforms were all about. But it was killed in the Senate, so we're going to be back again and going to redo it and massage it until it gets passed. Because we got to get, reform. Because our whole system just doesn't work. We have too many people that are uninsured. We have too many people that are abusing the emergency rooms. And that are using emergency rooms when there's really no emergency. They could go to some family clinic where they get the service for 10% of what it costs in an emergency room. And all of this stuff, it's crazy. It's a crazy system. We've got to reform it. And this is one of those big ideas where people have tried for 100 years in America to create a universal healthcare system, and were not able to do it. Earl Warren tried, in 1948, and he lost by one vote. And this is what happened to us in the Senate this year. But we're going to be back again over and over. But I totally agree with you that what we have to do is, that's why we have to fix the system in such a way that we never have to make cuts again. This is a wake-up call for everybody. This is unnecessary to make those kind of cuts and to hurt that many people. Yes, please.
Thank you again, Governor, for coming up here. And I especially just wanted to thank you for Saturday, March 29th. We had over 400 people from our community just 4 blocks away at Hammond Park, and we turned one of the worst parks in Humboldt County into one of the best parks with some of the best play equipment for our kids. And you are largely responsible for that because your program, California Volunteers, made that happen for our community. So I just wanted to thank you for that. That was really a special day for our community. It's a great park. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. As you know, yesterday or 2 days ago, we had a press conference about volunteerism. Because there's some elements in Sacramento that say we shouldn't allow people to volunteer. That everyone ought to get paid prevailing wage. Now imagine, when we had our fires the last time, and I went through the Qualcomm Stadium, and we had tens of thousands of evacuees in that stadium, had no place to go, because there was almost like 500,000 people evacuated. And they were packing into the Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego. Guess who was giving them the food? Handing out pizzas, cards, blankets, pillows, giving the babies baby formulas, getting the water there to the people, and all of those things for days and days and days. It was thousands of volunteers. Imagine you would say, now stop working. You have to get paid prevailing wage. I mean, it's crazy. There's certain special interests that promote this idea. And they want to rob the people of the opportunity to give something back to the state, to volunteer. I am the ultimate in volunteerism. I'm working for free. I don't take 1 penny because I don't want to take a penny from the state. I want to volunteer my years because California has given me so much. Everything that I have ever accomplished in my life is because of California. I could have gone anywhere else. Imagine to the Middle East or to China or to Japan or any of those places. I could have not done 10% of what I've accomplished right here in California. So why not let me volunteer and say, I want to volunteer and I want to work for free. It would be crazy if someone says, no, you must take your $200,000. I say, no, I don't want to take the $200,000. I don't need it. I have millions of dollars stashed away because California was so generous to me. So imagine you're telling people you can't go and volunteer. It is insane. So this is why I think it is very important that we have now, for the first time, a cabinet position in my office. We are the first office, the first governor in the United States that has a cabinet position as being the head of volunteerism, to promote volunteerism, to pull all the organizations together in California, so that when we have an emergency, which could easily happen. Remember, California is very prone to emergencies. If it's fires, if it's mudslides, earthquakes, terrorism attacks, and all of those things could come at the same time. We want to make sure that we have an army of volunteers out there that jump into action and that help people on all the different local levels and statewide. So that's what we want.
We're going to have time for just one more question, so let's pick a good one. You can
They're all
pick.
good. Yes, there's one, the gentleman back there.
I made the cut. I'm glad. Thank you for coming and talking about cutting spending in Sacramento. And as far as your proposal to limit that increase in spending, you had me at hello. So thank you for that. But my question is on the spending or on the revenue side. You said the tables, everything's on the table. Would you support looking at switching to the more progressive sales tax as opposed to a state income tax and try to make the state a tax haven for economic growth? I think we could lead the way in California if we just look at it, put it on the table. Is that one of those things that's on the table?
Well, two different things. When it comes to taxing, our system, the way we tax people and things in the state is outdated. And I think that everyone is recognizing it now. I don't think that this is going to be part of the budget negotiations. I think that what will happen is we will establish a committee, a bipartisan committee, that is from the outside and working with the legislators inside to find a way of looking at it with an open mind at the way we are taxing. If it is property tax, if it is personal income tax, if it is sales tax, if it is taxes that we are not taxing, if it's services, internet, one has to look at all of those things together and say, let's bring it up to date, the system. And not meaning that you should try to get more money from people, but just, maybe make it revenue neutral, but just a better way of taxing. Because right now, let's be honest, it's like, 10% of Californians that are making a lot of money are paying 80% of the taxes. So we are always very vulnerable that if there's an economic downturn, it really has a huge effect on our state's revenues. So we have to kind of even it out and come up with a better system. And there are states, we don't even have to reinvent the wheel. There are states that have a better system than we have right now. So we just have to look at all the states and other countries, and let's just try to change the system and make it better. But I think that we have to do that with everything. The systems, every 10 years we should look at everything in our state rather than staying stuck with the old way. And so that's one of those things is looking at the way we tax things. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. And let's all work together on this. Thank you.